Welcome today for our next round of grammar fight. Fight today will be between the simple past on the left side and the present perfect on the right. Of course, these are all tenses you already know, so this should be a fairly short revision of what to use it for and how to use it and how to form it. First, let's take a look at the easiest part, how to form the simple past and the present perfect. If you want to make simple past, you just take the infinitive of your verb, you add ed or a d, and it becomes the simple past. You have work, add ed, becomes worked. Only exception there, of course, are your irregular verbs. If you look at the column in red here, you will find all the simple past forms of the irregular verbs here. Something you need to know by heart. Something you studied last year, something you'll have to study again, of course, if there's a test on this topic. How do you form the present perfect? It's also easy. You take the fitting verb form of to have, you add the past participle to it, and you have a present perfect. It's very easy to make a past participle. It's just the same form as a past simple, basically, infinitive plus ed, unless it's an irregular verb form. Let's take a look at the regular example I've given here. I have worked. Very easy. If it's an irregular verb, you'll find the past participle in the green column. I notice my arrows moved up a bit to the left, but of course it's the green column you need to use in order to find the past participle. Now, when do we use a simple past? When do we use a present perfect? The basic rule is fairly simple, actually, and it's the one that will help you do the right thing most of the time. You use a simple past when the action in the past that you're talking about is over. If you say, I saw her yesterday, yesterday is over, then you use the simple past. A present perfect is an action that started in the past, but that still has implications for the present. It's most of the time it's still going on now, or it's talking about a point in the past up till the present. If you say, I've seen her twice today, that means that today is not over yet. But of course you've seen her, not now, but in the past. So that's the implication of the present perfect use. Action started in the past, but there's still a link with the present. That's why it's called present perfect. Okay, now let's go into a bit more detail here, and let's take a look at some specific examples to pinpoint the differences between the uses of simple past and present perfect. First example, I saw her this morning versus I have seen her this morning. If you have this sentence, I'll let you think about it for a moment, or just pause the video and think about it, whether you can find it or not. But the difference here is that in the first sentence, I saw her this morning, if you say it like that with a simple past, that means that this morning is over. If you say I've seen her this morning, that means that it's still morning. So that's the link it has with the present. If it can help you remember its basic rule. Whereas morning is over, there's no more link between morning and now. That's easy, I think. If you say I saw her last week versus I have just seen her, I think you feel the difference here. In I saw her last week, action once again is finished for some time. If you say I've just seen her, it's an action that's just finished. A word like just always implies the use of a present perfect in English. So that's one giveaway if you have that in an exercise, just. Okay. Third example is the use of it in news reports or news facts. It can be either in a formal situation, a news report on TV, or something you mention to other people. News, of course, has the connotation of being or having just happened. If you say Anderlecht has become champion of the Jupiler Pro League, then this is something that just happened when you said it, because it's news. If you continue your news report with they lost their last game in March, this is information that happened a lot more in the past. So that's the difference between present perfect, this is of course not a simple past here, and the simple past you have here. You don't consider this news, you should have known this already. In a news report, this just happened. It's also a difference. If you look at this report here, you'll notice that
Joe Biden has won the American presidential election. The BBC.
Joe Biden has won the American elections, has won. This has just happened. Okay. Let's take a look at the next example. He visited Spain 3 times versus he has visited Spain 3 times. Well, these are the same sentences, but something's missing to make it clear what the difference between those two sentences is. You could say he visited Spain 3 times in his lifetime, because simple past means that the time you're talking about is over. If you say he visited Spain 3 times, he won't visit Spain anymore. You could say he visited Spain 3 times, but he's so sick of the country he'll never go there again. The visiting is over. If you say he has visited Spain 3 times, he might go there again. You could add the word already to it. He has already visited Spain 3 times. That's a fourth use. So completed action, because in the first case he's dead or he's so fed up with it that it won't happen again. In the next sentence there's still a link with the present because he might go there again. And then the last example, I think, he lived in London for 3 years versus he has lived in London for 3 years. Once again, the difference has to do with the fact that the present perfect has a link with now and the simple past hasn't. If you say he lived in London for 3 years, this implies that he's not living there anymore. If you say he has lived in London for 3 years, this normally means that he still lives there. In English, they sometimes use has been living as a substitute for this. He's been living in London for 3 years. Then you want to stress the time period that he's living there most of the time. But both are correct and both can be used here. Whereas here, this means that it's over. He's not living there anymore. Oh, and then I had one last example. He lost his keys yesterday versus he has lost his keys. Once again, very similar sentences, but you already know here the losing. It's over. Yesterday was another day. If you say he has lost his keys, most of the time this implies that certain things, you see him either looking for the keys and you say, oh yeah, he has lost his keys. It's just happened and he hasn't found them again. It still has implications for the present. So that's the difference here. Here it could mean that he's not looking for them anymore, or he found them back. He lost his keys yesterday. He has lost his keys, you see him searching for it, or he hasn't found them yet. So it still has implications for the present. As a last little piece of help, these are words that are very often used with the present perfect, those you find in this column, or with the past simple. And you can see words like we've discussed just, it's not even in this list here, but have you ever been to London? Have you been to London yet already? They all have connotations that have to do with the present. Lately, that's from a short period back in time to now, whereas these are all finished periods in the past. So it's a good idea to keep this somewhere in the back of your mind, because it's a giveaway of which tense to use. But it all comes back to our basic rule, basically, which we've seen in the beginning. Simple past action is over, it's in the past. Present perfect, always a link with the present. And there you have all the grammar you need to tackle the exercises correctly. Good luck to all of you.